Hello. Welcome to today's Tuesday's Table Talks. I'm your host, Lotus.
And I'm Tigra.
Today, we are here with our first foremost. We are in the beautiful space of Love and Light Wellness Center here at 1325 Hampton. Glad you guys came to join us today, specifically at this special time, tax season.
Yes.
We have a wonderful guest today. Our expert today is Regina Fowler.
Hi.
Yeah, financial consultant Regina Fowler. And I'll let her discuss and tell you guys about her.
Well, I am Regina Fowler. I am a CPA, certified public accountant. At this point, though, I am retired. And right now I spend most of my time doing financial counseling, and I want to distinguish between the kind of financial counseling I do versus investment counseling. Mm-hmm. I actually counsel people on how to improve their financial situation by working on debt maintenance and debt elimination, financial growth through just basic things like saving and understanding the cost of debt, and helping people understand the things we do to ourselves that prevent us from having the financial prosperity or financial peace that we desire to have. So I do that on a voluntary basis. I have a not-for-profit called CHopeMinistry.com, and I just try to encourage people to take control of their own financial situation, because they can actually do that. In this day and time, it seems like we can't, but we actually can. And the reason I started doing this is really because years ago that I was like so many people, just in tons of debt, getting everything I wanted to do. And then I just realized that, my husband and I actually realized we needed to take control of our financial future and our financial situation. So we just chose to develop a program for ourselves to get ourselves out of debt and stay out of it. And I would say we've been out of debt for about 35 years.
Wow.
Don't get me wrong, we had a home, but we also paid that off early. And the home we have now, we did pay for cash. And so we just try to stay out of debt, because if you think about it, when you have debt, you really are paying someone else money that you could be investing in your own future. So that's what I focus on now, just helping people understand that they can actually be responsible for their own financial future and destination. So that's
I feel like a lot of self-discipline, right?
Self-discipline is the word. That's for sure. Discipline, sacrifice, but we all make them.
Yes.
And we all decide where we're going to be disciplined. But the goal is that if you're disciplined now, is so that you can have a better life and a situation where you don't have to be so disciplined, that you can enjoy some things and do some things that you always dreamed of, but maybe you couldn't do it because you just didn't have the money, you know? And so I try to help people understand that if you are in a bad financial situation, or you're just not there yet, you can actually discipline yourself or take control. I like to say, take control of what's going on in your life financially, and then prepare for that better time and better future financially. So, and ultimately we all want financial peace.
Yes.
And most people say, oh, what I want is wealth. Well, most people I counsel, what they really want is financial peace. They don't want the stress of, the debt, the burden of debt, and they don't want to know how they're going to pay their next bill. They just want to know that that's possible. And that's what I try to guide people through, to say, hey, it's possible. And don't get me wrong, getting there is tough, because we do create our own situations oftentimes. Sometimes we don't, but oftentimes we do. So getting to that place can be tough. But once you're there, you really don't remember too much about how it used to be. You're only really are focusing on how it is now. So that was my experience with my husband, and people who do pull themselves out of that. They don't think about how bad it was, outside of the context of helping someone else get there as well. So
So I know you talk about a lot of the steps in your book, Simply Grateful,
yes.
Available on Amazon.
Yes.
So for someone, let's say a mother of 5, bringing in maybe $1,000. So starting from an extreme situation like that, what's something small that they can do to start, just to begin the process of the...
Sure. Well, a mother of 5, I'm not sure if that person has debt or not, but say that person is, hey, I don't have a lot of debt. I just make $1,000 a month, but I do have 5 children. the first thing to do really is to find out what resources are available to mothers of five. Because the fact of the matter is that there are programs, and whether they're through your government or through social not-for-profits, who are there to help people like that, mothers like that. And the first thing to do is find a resource that can help you get to those programs that can help you and are there to help you. And there's an amazing amount of help out there, to be honest. And people have to find what they are. And you could do that through, even the Treasurer's Office of St. Louis City. They have a program on financial counseling.
Oh, wow.
And you could go down there and find out tons of available, programs that are available to actually help people get out of it. And they actually offer a financial counseling program.
Wow.
So you have programs everywhere. And then you have, I think it's called Project Hope, I believe it's called. And there's, and that's what St. Louis City uses, that particular program. But St. Louis County has one too. And those programs are there to actually help people come get out of those financial situations. But they're all other programs. Many churches do the same thing. Actually, my husband and I ran a program at our church, and it was through their Dave Ramsey program. And we didn't use Dave Ramsey because he wasn't around then, but we used other programs. But we've done, don't even know how many number of classes we've done to help people pull out themselves out of the financial of the bad situations. But we also make sure they understand where the resources are, how you can manage debt even when it seems like it's impossible.
Right.
I do remember one lady who had debt everywhere, and through the program we ran at a church, we just told her, hey, why don't you contact your creditors first and see what they can do. Everybody actually worked with her to eliminate her debt, except Walmart.
Okay.
And I think their idea was that we give you discounted prices. We're not going to write off your $300 debt too. But everybody else actually did help her and write it off. And financial counselors are there to help. Again, St. Louis City has a program. Another bank has it. It may be the St. Louis Community Credit Union. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, there are banks that actually help. The Prosperity Center, I think it's called, through the bank. And they actually help so many people. And I actually refer people to them because not only do they help people with financial counseling, they actually also help them find the resources that will help in their particular situation. I know someone now who through the Urban League is actually getting their house almost completely done because they have a program to help people who, in this case, it was medical issues. So there was a lot of costs, and they just came in and revamped the program. So for that mother with the 5 kids, find the resources, reach out to the programs that are available. And to be honest, you can almost Google anything these days.
So true.
And just Google personal financial counseling and pull up those resources that are available.
Personal financial counseling.
Yes.
And most of this information, we'll do our best to put it underneath within the chat and included in the description of the video. So you'll have the information as well as Regina Fowler's information and her your nonprofit.
Yes. Great.
I'd like to know, are there any what would be specific tips that you would have that you could give us in regards to wealth management?
Well, before we get to wealth management, I would say create wealth first.
Yes.
Most people ask about
you
wealth.
You gotta have the money.
Most people, that is one of the first questions people ask. Well, how do I manage my wealth? And my response is, well, do you have any wealth? Well, let's work on getting the wealth first, and then managing. There are tons of people who will manage your health. That's what Edward Jones is there for, and Merrill Lynch. All of these investment companies will manage your wealth. The big challenge for many of us is actually obtaining that wealth. And that's what I work on, not so much managing it, because people will take your money, invest it, and get their get their percentage. That's easy. Selling money is easy. Getting there is the hard part. And I would say, for me, with the most of the people I've counseled, the biggest detriment to their wealth, are several things. One, debt. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't express how dangerous debt is. When if you think about it, say you have a credit card and you spend $100 on it. I'll say $1,000, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the credit card company charges 22%.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, all you have to pay is the minimum balance, which is about $10 on $1,000.
You're like, oh, $10.
Yeah. Right, $10. Oh, I could manage this monthly, right?
Yeah.
But imagine this, if they're charging 22% for whatever you bought for $1,000, you are now paying $1,220 for whatever that is. But in addition to that, you are losing the opportunity to invest that $1,000 and say if you put it in something, I mean, even a CD now, you could get 5%.
Mm.
Not only have you lost the $220 that you're paying to use the credit card, but you're also losing that extra 5%, $50 that you could be gaining on it. So you've just spent $1,000, but because of debt, you've also lost another $270 in wealth that you could have. And I'm not against debt, but I don't promote consumer debt too much.
Yes.
Consumer debt is that debt that says, just go out and get this,
Just
buy, or hey, get this credit card. If you buy some clothes today, you can go to Macy's and JCPenney. They say, oh, if you put this on a credit card, you get a 15% discount. But they are going to charge you 22% if you don't pay that off in the next month. So I think people first have to look at their debt and they have to look at their spending habits and understand what their own actions are doing to them. And I would say that's, I speak so strongly about that because that was a personal challenge for my husband and I. We grew up poor, and we went to college, and thank God we were able to go to college and all that. And we got these first jobs and we were like, wow, I cannot believe it. We are making this much money. And what did we do? We did what everybody, well, not everybody did, but we certainly did people who weren't as knowledgeable about the financial journey. We bought 2 cars. We're in an apartment for a little while, but went straight out to buy the house. We had to furnish that house. And of course, we bought a 2,600 square foot house. So we had to furnish that 4-bedroom house. And we furnished it with debt. And then, we wanted to eat out, like everybody else. And so we were buying food and, just put it on a credit card. No big deal. And we found ourselves with this stack of debt. And we really had so many credit cards. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
I mean, not just, it was Famous Bar back then, Sticksbury Filler, but American Express, Visa, MasterCard, the gas companies, where you go buy your gas. We had places like Lerner, because back then I was small and I could go to stores like that. I think it's called New York and Company now or something like that. But we had Brooks Brothers because we were professionals. So we had to get the Brooks Brothers clothes. We had all those credit cards. And one day, actually when I got pregnant with my daughter, we realized, wait a minute, we cannot bring this child up in this kind of environment because one day she's going to want to go to college. And the way we're going now, that just won't happen unless she figures it out on her own. And we just decided between my husband and I, we just had to change all of this. And we decided we were going to get out of debt. But what was so funny is that we spent some months, and I talk about it in the book, going through this plan of just paying off this debt. And we just didn't buy stuff. Even being pregnant, I didn't buy furniture and things like that. My sisters gave furniture to me. Someone gave me maternity clothes. And while that was a humbling experience, not being able to do these things myself, it was better for us just to humble ourselves and get out of that stuff, out of that debt. But what was so funny is it took us a little bit to get out of the debt. But once we got out of the debt, we realized that we had twice as much money as we needed.
Wow.
Our salaries were almost exactly the same. And when we were in debt, it took all our money to pay the debt.
Yes.
Wow.
Once we paid it off, we realized that we were saving almost a whole salary.
Oh, wow.
Because debt had actually eaten up all of our money and our ability to grow wealth with that extra money. And so a lot of people's wealth, a lot of people's opportunity to get wealth is really being lost in what you pay credit card companies, in particular, consumer credit card companies, because mortgage companies don't charge 22%. Okay. consumer debt companies do it. And I understand why. It's because they don't have any recourse against you. They can't come claim your house if you don't pay consumer debt. They can't take your car if you don't take consumer debt, because the cars and houses are, of course, collateralized with what you buy. So these consumer credit card companies have to charge large amounts of interest to really make their money, because if you don't pay, there's no recourse for them other than, sending a credit collector after you, which is, it has a lot of power, but that's all they are credit collectors. They can't take anything from you.
Yeah.
They can only take away maybe your peace, which is what people hate.
Yeah.
So the first thing I say about getting to the point where you have wealth is evaluate your debt situation. The next thing I say is evaluate those things that are available to you that over time can bring you wealth, like a 401k plan. Investing in your job's 401k plan, or creating an IRA for yourself. And while that's a slow process of gaining wealth, the fact of the matter is that those of us who start putting money in our IRAs today, I mean, years ago when we were like in our 20s and 30s, and it was for us the 30s because we were in debt in our 20s and early 30s. We had to get out of that first. But once we start doing that, today they represent millions.
Oh, wow.
And so, and while the returns aren't what they used to be, they still will represent a good portion of growth in what you have and what you start out with versus what you end up with. So use those things that are available to you. And again, that takes discipline. I get paid, $5,000 a month, and you're asking me to put, 8% in the 401k. No, what I'm really asking you is to set aside some money so that when you are 60,
that's right,
that 8% is paying off for you, and you're doing things you never really thought you can do. And that's so important today because so many companies don't have the defined benefit pension plans where, like teachers do. I love those teachers. They have those great benefit plans. I retire and I get this monthly check. Well, very few organizations do that. They're not giving you a check because they don't want to be responsible for the growth. So instead, they're have these 401k plans and defined contribution plans where they contribute a certain amount of money towards your retirement, but you're responsible for managing it. Well, I'm a CPA, but I'm also an HR professional. So I ran HR for a couple of companies. And so one of the things I ran, one of my things that were under my supervision was our pension plans. And I used to see at the last company I retired from before I was over HR, we used to have this policy where you could borrow on your pension funds, your defined contribution pension funds. And people would borrow on that money to go on vacation and do all kinds of things. And I remember just stopping that. Nope, we're going to take away this. You can't borrow against it. And people were furious with me. And I understood why they were furious with me because it was something available to them. But I will tell you, some of those people, when they got to the point where they were retiring, were thanking me because now they've seen the growth of that money and they can actually retire. They don't have to wait until they're 75 to retire. They can retire now because I can no longer borrow against that money on frivolous things. Yes. And we prevented borrowing to things like, we even took away your kids' education. You couldn't borrow on that for that either because, my philosophy is that I would love to pay for my kids' education, and I did. But if I didn't have the money, you don't have to figure this out yourself, Right. And so we even took away that. But when people did retire and realized they had this large chunk of money, they were actually very grateful. And that's why. So, take advantage of those things. Another thing is slow down. You don't have to be rich today.
Right.
And most people define wealth and richness as about what you have. Yes. The show of my wealth is driving a particular kind of car, living in a certain neighborhood. But that's not actually the definition of wealth. The definition of wealth is how much you have versus how much you owe.
That's right.
I could have a gigantic house that costs me $1.5 million, but if I owe $1.475 on that, I only have $25,000 of wealth on that. So it's not what you have, it's really the balance between what you have and what you owe. And I love this book. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. And they have different versions of it, but it talks about the wealth in the United States in particular. And it talks about how many people that are actually wealthy that you never know because their lives are just so common. and they live in a house that's reasonable. Their cars are reasonable, often used because they don't want the depreciation to take come off the car as soon as you drive it off the lot. And they build this wealth over many years, and they and there are so many people like that. People and you don't know that there are people like that,
right?
And because they don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we spend so much time saying, well, it's the watch, it's the cars and things like that. But in this book, the Millionaire Next Door, they did a test of people who wore like Rolex watches and stuff like that, and they discovered that a good portion of those people were not wealthy. They just had the appearance of wealth. So I say to people, slow it down. What you see is not necessarily what it really is. And you have to define your lifestyle. You cannot define it by someone else. You have to define what's right for you. And I will say, my husband and I had to discover that. So I'm not guiltless here. And the reason I'm passionate about it is because I'm not guiltless. I wanted everything everybody else had, and I felt like I deserved it too. I went to college, we were poor. It's my time now.
Right.
And so many of us think that, it's my time now. I deserve it.
Why can't I have it?
Why can't I have it? And really, if I have sisters, and I'm the youngest girl out of my sisters, and of course I know one of my older sisters, but I was trying to do things they were doing, but they were considerably older than me. Why was I trying to do things they were doing? Well, I was being pushed by our norms, our societal norms, to do what other people do. But once we got a grip of ourselves and decided, no, we're not living like everybody else, we're living like we need to live, today is a whole different world. My husband and I invested in our 401ks. We saved. We spent based on how we're comfortable spending, and we saved, knowing that our money was not just for today. Our money was also for the future. And I will say that the difference that is made in our lives is really extraordinary. We don't worry about money. Both my husband and I are retired now. I retired at 57 and he just retired at 62. So we were able to retire early, and, we have financial peace. And so it's something that I didn't understand when I was young, but I encourage people to understand that financial peace is what you want, not just wealth. But if you just happen to want wealth, that peace, wanting financial peace, will help guide you too. Because you're not going to do anything that's going to infringe on your ability to gain wealth. You're not going to bypass contributing to a 401k so that you can buy the next best Lexus, knowing that car, no matter at some point, is not going to function right. And I know I have one, and I can't believe the kind of things that break on it. I did buy used. I'm thinking, I went to the dealership. I said, these kinds of things, the locks, these things shouldn't break, but they do. So, things don't provide value. It's that balance between what you have and what you owe. It is better to have a house that you can afford and can pay off quickly, so that and then have that equity in that home, and that equity is yours, versus having a house that's $1 million, and the fact of the matter, you're owing on it the rest of your life. And to be honest, it also positions you to get a good deal. We paid off our second house early, and then another deal came, a house we had wanted 2 times. Went and saw it 2 times, but we were like, oh no, that house is too expensive. We're not paying that money for that house. The person the third person who bought that house bought it at a time he couldn't afford it. He lost the house, walked away from it, and we went in, got it for half the price, and we were ready to pay for it because we had positioned ourselves by being reasonable, and we paid for that house, and that house is worth now more than double what we paid for it. But we were able to go in, pay cash for it, get that house, because someone else did not manage their finances well. And then because we did, we set ourselves up to be able to do something like that. So you have to look forward and not just at what's happening today if you're going to really gain that wealth. Now, I will say too, don't get me wrong, our careers did make a difference. It's not like we had careers that didn't pay well.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, my husband was in the kind of banking that's called private equity, and that's a huge thing. Not many of us,
yes,
in our culture are in that business, but he was afforded an opportunity to get into it, and because he was able to get into it, we were able to invest in it, and we made those investments that are just are paying off great. So, but again, we were able to make those moves because we had just slowed down things. He didn't have to go get the job that he thought was the best job, because when he went into private equity, he loved what he was doing, and we didn't. And when he changed to that particular type of banking, we were able to handle that change, not knowing what the payoffs were, because we weren't in need of money, and he didn't have to go, stick with what he was doing. He was able to make that transition, and that paid off for us in an incredible way. So I think just managing yourself, slowing life down a little bit, not being pressured by the Joneses, helps you have a really good, just helps you be able to think more clearly about what it is you're trying to do in your life. So, and with your finances. Yeah.
I feel like, I know it's a problem or an issue across the board with everybody.
Yes.
But I feel like our culture, and I can't blame it all on the rappers and everything, but because it's funny because the story just came up with the Beyonce Renaissance tour is going on sale, and they were a couple of $1,000s, one of them. And I don't know how true it is, but it was a post, and it was somebody had screenshot text. And so anyway, it was a couple, a man and a woman. I don't know if they were married or not, but they were saving to buy a house.
Oh, okay.
And so the woman was like, Beyonce just went on sale. He was like, well, baby, we have to save. Remember, we saving to buy this house. And she was like, no, but it's Beyonce, baby. If you love me, you're going to give me this Beyonce. He was like, no, that's not in the budget. So, that's just one example. So if you're in a couple, and it's just not you making these decisions. I don't know what happened. In the text, it says that, she was breaking up with him or moving out. I don't know if that was real or not.
Oh, God.
But, it's like, if you have I know you're not, it's maybe outside of your realm, but what do you do? Do you just use your portion if your partner isn't on board? How do you do that if you're alone in it and someone else is?
I try not to do marriage counseling because I'm not a marriage counselor. So, we all have our challenges, but I can only tell you how it worked for my husband and me.
Yes.
And we did everything together. We got into debt together. We got out of debt together.
That's right.
When our funds come to our home, it is the funds of the house. It doesn't matter who made the most or anything like that. There were times I made more than my husband. There were times he's made more than me. We both thought it was a good idea to invest in these private equity funds that he's in. So that's how we do it. And our thought was that together is always better.
Yes.
There's something about unity. There's power in unity when you're working together and making these decisions together. It's just a stronger force. There's on the movie, what's it called? I don't remember, but it was Taraji Henson. She was getting married, and then she and her husband were getting divorced and all that kind of stuff. And they said a threefold cord is hard to break or something like that. But he was talking about the minister who was counseling them was saying that, being two working together is so much better. But if you also have threefold cord, and he was talking about God, it's just so much better to have that. But, unity is always better than disunity, and we know from slavery days, Willie Lynch, how did he say to break up the unity of African Americans? Separate them, cause them to have division amongst themselves. And as long as there's division, you just aren't going to get as much conflict. Yeah, you're going to have conflict and you're not going to get as much accomplished. So my husband and I, we got married at 21 and 22. But we decided at that age we were going to work together and do everything together and make decisions together. And that just has helped us so that if I was getting in a lot, if we were, and we did try it. One year we tried separate funds and we discovered some things. I discovered I was the spender and he was the saver. I decided, oh no, we were making the same thing, and he had all that money in his bank. I'm like, oh no, we got to bring this together. But I did understand by bringing our funds together, we were going to have to make decisions together. But what happened is that helped us, be accountable to one another and to grow our marriage together, but grow our finances together. And so now that we're both retired, we were just developing our trust, finalizing our trust today, which is why I was kind of running in there. I was making copies of my trust to make sure I had it and everything. But, all our trust funds, our attorney said, well, do you guys want to divide anything and have separate things? We were like, no, everything's together. And so all of our trust funds are all together. And so only time they'll be separate if one of us die and the other is no longer with us, or if we both die and then our kids, and others that we're giving to will split those funds. And then if they become separate, other than that, everything is together. Now, I don't know if that works for everybody because I don't know the dynamics of their marriages and their relationships with their partners. I don't know what it is. Now, if my husband had been crazy or I had been crazy, then maybe doing it together wouldn't have worked. Yeah. But we were sensible people, and we chose unity in our finances and our love over disunity. But everybody has to evaluate themselves. And so I try not to get into the marriage dynamics too much. So
beautiful. Yeah, we'll be discussing that next week.
Yeah. Oh, good. Very good. Get the real professionals in on that. So
well, I don't know if it'll be professionals, but we actually are having an open discussion with about Black male and female relationships and couples. And and I'm so for the point that we need to be more together and more unified. And sometimes there's so much, separation that goes on.
I agree.
And to go back over the point of, I think it's important. And one of the things that you were saying is that we need to be conscious of how we compare ourselves to the things that we see and comparing those things. And a lot of times it's not even reality. Yes. So making comparisons about things that we see and also which causes unnecessary competition. If you do not have it, don't get it. If you cannot buy this particular, buy the Lexus, don't buy it. Simple tools that can help us get into the financial states that we need to be. And also, for me, what's very important and how I conduct my business and finances is always being mindful that I want to create something of a legacy that my children, that my grandchildren can have. So creating generational wealth. It also helps me to make sure that I'm not making frivolous decisions on spending unnecessary and buying things that I cannot afford or putting, having credit that is unnecessary, to put us in a situation. So I think it's looking more at the long-term goals. And you're blessed, and we are so blessed when we have partners or have people and family members that understand to help us to push further. It's so imperative that we do that, and that each little bit of savings can go a lot. If you don't have any money, if you're making, $250 a week, and you're able to take from that $250, even if it's $15 to put towards something that you are saving, and continue to save, even add a little bit more, whatever it is, just get in the habit of saving and putting something to the side. Then once you're able to save it, then you can invest. Then you can find other ways to utilize that savings to where you can create the generational wealth or create more of a cushioning for yourselves. I think we compete and compare too much, and within the African American culture, in which we understand, we've spoken about this before on some other episodes, where we understand because of the issues that we experience Westernly or in past history dealing with slavery, we have to make ourselves look a certain way. We weren't given the opportunities or the same. So we have to dress up how we feel inside, and put on this, I guess, a mask in a sense, a very costly mask very costly mask to put that on to make us feel as if that we belong and we're fitting in or have something that is worthy. We are already worthy.
We are already worthy. There you go.
We are already worthy. I say it constantly. I stand on the breath of my ancestors. I have no choice but to be great. And so as long as we are
Mhm.
aware of our history, we are already blessed with the
Yes,
genius and
right,
ingenuity
right.
to push
Yeah.
ourselves and our communities into better place. This is a
I
perfect
agree.
example.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah, I
so
agree.
much.
Oh, no problem.
You
Well,
know,
I agree with you so much, and I think you know something you said is very important is that you want to leave something for your children and even your grandchildren. When we go in with that mindset that everything I have is not my own, it's for others, that puts you in the right frame of mind. I love my children. I love my grandchildren. We all love our children, right? We all love our grandchildren. We want them to have better. And when we apply that thought process to our finances, then we have an understanding of why we are being disciplined, why we're doing things the way we're doing. It's because my child, my grandchild will have more freedom to do things that he or she wants. They will have more financial freedom to do things that he or she wants. I think of my parents who had 11 12 of us and one passed as a baby, but and just how rough things were. But they were always thinking about, I want my kids and grandkids to do better. And I would say we are all doing better because so many principles they taught us to just, hey, you don't have to do things. And in the first chapter, every time I read it, it makes me cry because I talk about my parents' lives and coming from the South and why he ended up leaving the South, being chased out of the South. But he came with the idea that my children will have it better. So he was always forward looking. When you and I always use this when I teach classes, is I talk about sometimes the athletes, they make all this money and they go spend so much, on houses and stuff like that. And they don't sit down and say, wait a minute, I can only play for so many years.
That's right.
What happens after the 25, 30 years I live after this career is over? Will I have the same amount of money? And oftentimes we hear the stories of so many that don't have enough money. It's because they were not forward looking. If you go buy $1 million house, or no, that's probably not that much for these days, but for an athlete, but say you buy a $20 million house, in 20 years, do you need that? And in 20 years, once you're retired, will you be able to pay for it? Because guess what? Sportscasters don't get paid as much as professional athletes.
Right.
And even if you get the good job as a sportscaster, it's not going to be as profitable as an athlete. And so often they're not taught that money is not just for today, it is for the rest of your life. I love house hunters. I really do. But there was a professional athlete and he was at that point, and he was on house hunters with his wife, house hunters with his wife. And she was saying that, he has maybe about 3 or 4 years left on his contract, and probably after that won't do anything. She said, but I've always made sure that we've managed our money for how we're going to live until our lives are over. So on this show, and I was expecting they were going to get this gigantic, big old house, with 20 bedrooms and stuff. They got now, and while the house was still big, but it was like a 6-bedroom home, so reasonable, and that's all they needed. But I love the way the wife said, well, he allowed me to handle the finances so that we could make sure we lived a comfortable life even after his contract and his career is over. Everybody has to live that way. What I am making, what I have now is not just for today. And some people say, oh, you must live for today. Well, unfortunately, tomorrow is coming unless you die. And I don't think, what is it, carpe diem or what it is? I don't think it means that you do. You take everything you have and just live for right now. It means enjoy today. It doesn't mean be foolish today, as if tomorrow will never show up. You're going to wake up tomorrow and then what? So, and I think that children can really help us get them past, because that's what actually happened to my husband. It was the idea, I am pregnant and I am getting ready to have a child here, and I didn't know I was pregnant at first of all. But when I discovered I was, we were like, oh no, we can't do this to our child. So we became forward looking after living for today. So I love that you said that, because that's so important, and that can really bring us around to where we want to be. So
So with tax time coming up, people are getting, I don't know, I've never been in that boat, but other people get thousands, 9, 6 or whatever, thousands of dollars. So instead of buying that Gucci purse or the bling bling, pay off the bill.
Yeah. Well, 2 things about tax time. One, my preference is that IRS never owes you anything because if you owe them, they're going to charge you interest and a penalty if you don't get that paid by April 15th. But if they owe you, you get nothing for your money. So back in the day, when we were just kind of normal employees and stuff like that, before we started doing all these investments, life becomes more complicated with your taxes once you do that. But back in the day, I always managed to pay just enough taxes to owe the IRS about $300. Because the rule is if you pay in as much as you paid last year, you won't get charged any interest. I always make sure I owe them a little bit on April 15th. So I always tell people, why have them owe you anything? Some people say, well, it's my savings plan. If it just happens to be your savings plan, then I agree with you. Don't go buy the Gucci bag. Pay a bill off. If you have a credit card that's charging you 18, 22, 25%, pay that down. And if you don't have those credit cards, open an IRA and let that money start working for you. Because every little amount adds up. If it's $15 or whatever it is, it adds up. But what happens is that once you start doing that, you really have a change in your mindset, that you realize I don't have to have it all. I kind of like seeing the growth of money.
That's right.
Knowing that I'll be able to do stuff. And then I remember when we had a situation when emergency came up and we did not have to pull out a credit card for emergency. Our car got hit twice. One day after the other. We were taking our kids to my sister Carol's house to babysit them because they didn't have school, but my kids, and they were out of school and we were working. And for somehow our car got hit twice, but not to have to go to a credit card to pay for the repairs. Now we did use a back alley, a body guy, but that's okay. We didn't have to pay on credit. We were able to pay. And what an amazing feeling that was. To be able to say, I don't have to use credit to pay this amount. I was wise enough to find someone who could do the work without charging an arm and a leg. And I was able to pay that person and not owe anything for it. Those kind of feelings and those kind of wins really, as you start doing that, really helps build your confidence in your ability to be financially free and ultimately reach that point of financial security that you want. And I say starts, like you said, if it's $15 a month, before you know it, that's going to be so exciting to you. And wow, look at that. Oh my God, I didn't have any savings last year. Now I have $1,015. That's a good feeling. I remember the first time we had $3,000 savings. I was so excited. I couldn't believe it. And then when we had 15,000, I'm like, oh my God, I just can't believe it. Now, those numbers while they're small now, they were amazing to me. And I'm like, this is just unbelievable. But I will tell you, our minds were like, if we can do this, we can really save. And so now in retirement, and we've not even determined when we'll start taking our retirement income. Because we retired early, of course, we have to pay for health insurance. And so, with Obamacare, if you show that you make less than $100,000, Obamacare really works for you. Well, we don't have to take any income. We can just use our savings, which is not income, and take advantage of Obamacare and pay far cheaper health insurance rates because we are not earning any income that we're taking.
Great tip.
Instead, we're living on savings. We can do that. And so, we've not decided when we're going to start actually taking retirement income because right now we're going to wait till we're 65 and get on Medicare and take advantage of Obamacare. So these are kinds of things you start thinking about and you get excited about. And these are kind of wins that push you to just do more. And I will say this too. I will say this because I think this is important. I don't think everything you have and what you earn is just for yourself. My husband and I are strong believers that we help other people. So we don't, we never want to be in the position if someone comes and have a need that we can't help fulfill. I remember my son in college, he had a friend who thought that person thought they wouldn't be able to return to college because both parents had lost their jobs and, they just couldn't pay the bill. And my son was just really, hurt by that because that was a really good friend of his. But when we learned, we were like, oh no, we can't let somebody not go to college. But to have money to say that we can pay those several $1,000s they needed to pay was also something that gives us great joy.
That's
So
beautiful.
in our minds, we don't feel like the money is all for us. It is to help other people,
That's
because
right.
what a shame to have so much and then some people around you are suffering.
That's right.
And so our little mantra is that we have money to live, of course, but also to give.
That's right.
And so, and there's certainly, some people complain about Oprah, and I said the reason she has so much is she gives so much.
That's right.
Fact of the matter, that's how it
Yes,
works.
Yeah, that's right.
You
You
can't-
give to give.
Yeah, right.
You give to give, because as you're
Right.
giving, it creates that same
Exactly.
universal cycle of constantly
Yes.
giving. And then when,
Yes.
and I think even emotionally, how
Uh-huh.
it makes you feel that you
Yes.
are in the position to
Mhm.
give.
Yes.
Right.
And you
Yes.
continue to stay in that position.
Exactly.
As soon as you
Thank you.
develop a
Yes.
sense of lack, oh, I can't do this, or
Right.
I won't do this, or
Mhm.
whatever that situation is,
Yeah.
it stops.
It stops.
The
yes.
flow
The
of
blessings,
prosperity,
Yes.
it stops.
Yes.
But when you leave it open and understand, no
Mhm.
matter what it is,
Yes.
you are able to give. You're
Right.
constantly able to
Mhm.
give, and it keeps the
Yes.
universe keeps blessing you. God
Yes.
keeps blessing you in order
Yes.
for you to
yes.
continue to do it.
And I'm a strong believer in that. I know I'm a strong. Believe me, I'm committed to the Bible. I'm a strong Christian, and there's one thing that they always talk about is if you give, what comes back to you is more than you can
Tenfold,
even
right.
actually understand. You can
Mhm.
really comprehend. And I would say even during our debt days, we always gave,
Mhm.
and not just to our church, because we do give at church, but we also gave to others. And and the bigger blessing is not just what you give to your church. The bigger blessing, if you're a Bible reader, is when you give to those in need.
In need, yes.
So when we say, "Oh, I'm not my brother's keeper," fact of the matter is that when you are your brother's keeper, God acknowledges that.
Mhm.
And says, well, I'll take care of you since you took care of that. But his returns are amazing.
Mhm.
And I just believe we should give and help others. And I would say that's one of the things that grieved me so much is that we can be so selfish as humans.
Mhm.
We can, it's all about us. I think Martin Luther King said in one speech, he said, the people always telling us to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. He said, what happens when a man doesn't have boots?
That's right.
You can't tell somebody to do something and they don't even have the resources to begin. And so I just think we have to save a little bit for ourselves, but save a little bit for somebody else
That's
too,
right.
and be a blessing to someone else. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
And also to
Mhm.
piggyback on that,
Mhm.
giving is not just monetary.
Yes.
No, you can give
So
your
true.
time, you can
Yes, your
give,
talent.
you can volunteer, you
Yes.
can, yes, your talents,
Uh-huh.
you can give a smile.
Right.
That creates so much. You
Yes.
can give an ear, a listening ear. We see people,
Yeah. And what you all are
quite
doing right
frequently,
here.
right,
Yeah.
who may need some assistance,
Uh-huh.
and just spend a little time.
Yeah.
That's part of giving,
I
and
agree.
that creates that flow.
And
That
that's it.
flow,
It's the flow. Woo.
That creates that flow,
Uh-huh.
and it does not
Yes.
stop. It will not stop.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
And I love that because what you guys are doing is giving back, because some people will never get the advice of, Dr. Maxey or the other people you've had, but because they listen here, they're able to get this, gain this knowledge. And many people think, oh, even if they're talking about giving time, they're thinking, people we think of, oh, you have to, volunteer or not for profit or something like that. And those things are good, and we should do that. But when you see a need and say, hey, I'm going to try to fulfill that need somehow, that's huge. Because my husband said, well, why don't you do a podcast? I said, well, these ladies are doing it. Why should I do what they're doing? Because they're doing this, and this is a need that's there. And we have other ways that we give. And I love when these things happen, podcasts and stuff like that. I wish more and more people would just focus on them and stuff like that, because you get free information that's truly helpful. And I see people literally pay thousands just to get the same information.
and you're right.
I have a friend who does this whole path to prosperity, and I love him. Don't get me wrong. I hope he doesn't see this, but you have to pay so much.
Right.
You can actually hear it on a podcast.
Right.
So,
I think that's one of the things that
Mhm.
that keeps us going so much, and we've
Yeah.
had the conversation because we give
Yeah.
give so much.
Oh, I can
We
imagine.
do.
Yeah.
We give so much, and we do so much, and so now we're at the point. It's like, okay, so we'll have this particular one, we might have to get paid for this because everything that we do, and we've been blessed.
So good. It really
does.
So
We've been,
yeah.
I mean, totally blessed, and it's honored. I mean, so we're so humbled to be in the positions that we're in. We actually just had a brunch and biz this past Saturday, and which the next one is coming up February 18th on a Saturday.
Wonderful.
So within that brunch and biz, what we did and what we are doing is allowing entrepreneurs, small business owners, or people who want to get into business, or and we're talking with them about how to start their business, giving what we can, financial advice, letting them know of grants and how we have achieved certain things, no matter what it is. No matter what it is, we're sharing our tips and skills, and because we've been blessed to do that. And we're leaving the floor open for if anyone else has certain tips and skills that they're able to share, with us as well.
So nothing's wrong with monetizing what you do now.
No.
Yeah,
so we have to monetize in order for us to continue.
Right, exactly. So
to advance it, so we're able to do more. We understand.
Right. Okay,
look, totally. And I'm saying this live. When I'm saying it live, and this is a part of. And I'm gonna put this in the spiritual terms for what I just went through in regards to transitioning and learning how to be humble. And we spoke on this before we even started the Tuesday Table Talks, and before all of us, in a sense, were in a different states of transitioning. So I ran a daycare for over 25 years.
Wow.
Ended it since COVID. Drastic shift in income. We moved from a much larger house into an apartment. We're getting another house. But moved from this apartment to this apartment. I've never lived in an apartment. I've had to, and which is so beautiful, because I had to come back and look and say, I've always wanted to know how to live minimalistic, how to be able to just have one purse, my dress shoes, my running shoes, my this. And I used to say, I admire that until the day came when I actually had to live like that, because we, like I said, in an apartment. So downsized completely. I had 3 closets where I was. So to come to just a half of a closet. And I cannot say that I openly agreed to this, because I was kicking and screaming. I was crying. I called my mama. I did everything. I could not believe what was happening, right? But until that moment, it was like a ray, of sunshine came and said, listen, you asked for this. This is what you wanted. And just stop. Calm down. Let me take over. Trust the process as to what it is. And since I let it go and trust the process, it was like my whole life did a complete flip. Everything that I wanted to do, that I aspired to do, I've been able to do. My career totally shifted, and we just, and it was like whatever Spirit say do, we did it. When Spirit said, okay, look, I want y'all to do this. I'm like, Tiggy, okay, can we do such and such? And we're like, okay, let's do it. And we've done it. So we have listened to what Spirit has told us to do, and been open to give more of ourselves and give that without any expectation. Without even sometimes not even knowing, faith is, not knowing. It's believing in the invisible, until it takes place. And then you're like, oh, that's what that was for. That's what that was for. And so we're so grateful.
And it's not easy, that's for sure. It's not easy.
It's not easy. Not at all.
In the trenches of it. I am still suffering from it. But between your book and the advice, and I know another good piece of advice from an aunt was like, pay yourself first as well. So I can't even, like you said, it's like, and I eat out a lot. And one time I did, because I know you went through all the things like eating out, spending. I eat out a lot because I don't cook. That's Reton's fault. But
look at your business, baby.
Right.
But it's like, yes,
it's
these principles, this advice that she gives in this book is so solid. and it's so helpful. I just can't even stress it enough. You're gonna have to get the book to get to the rest, but I'm just looking at one thing that I highlighted. It was like, set your financial goals in 4 categories: 3 to 12-month goals, 1 to 3-year goals, goals for the next 5 to 10 years, and retirement goals.
Yes,
love it.
So she really breaks it down. Again, Simply Grateful by Regina D. Fowler.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
So no, it's because it is. It's so helpful. And it's really important because, like you said, we have this YOLO, and I know I'm guilty of it. YOLO, $300 on a meal, right?
Yeah.
No, and it's like I'm guilty. So once you buy that Gucci purse, I literally may have worn it once, and it's sitting in the closet. And you know what you could do with that $2,000?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I could have a credit card that's paid off right now.
And I think the thing is that there's nothing wrong with enjoying those things. It's just you should do it at the right time.
At the right time. Yes.
If you have to go buy the Gucci purse, and I say this because I have a closet full of those things, but it has to be at the right time. Yeah, my first handbag, designer handbag, I mean upper end designer handbag, there are a lot of designers they call, but upper end designer handbag was when we paid off our house. And I was like, and that was the last piece of debt we had.
Wow.
Our house note. And I said, I'm going to enjoy myself and do this. But I would never get it if I had to go get it on credit.
Right.
And go on a 3-year payment plan for a purse. I mean, and when you think of the utility of a purse, it's to pour, and I put so much stuff in my purse. And when you think of utility, you don't have to pay that much for it. And the fact of the matter, if you just want a really good quality purse, you could go to the outlet store and get something nice and be okay with it. So I'm not against getting those fine things. It's just a matter of timing, doing the apartment thing until you get to the house again. That's just the way it is. But in the meantime, there's that peace, that you have by not saying, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bill today?
Oh my gosh.
And for us, I remember we used to say that, well, because back then, if you didn't pay your utilities, they didn't end up on your credit report. So I used to say, well, I'm just not going to pay Amber and UE. And I understood the timing as the little notices they get you. If you got the pink slip, it's time to pay.
Right.
But if you still don't have the pink slip, you're okay. That's not a good way to live. Yeah. It's not enjoyable at all. It's very stressful. It is. So, when I counsel people, I say, I'm teaching financial peace. I'm not teaching wealth management. That's just a side product from handling your finances well. The goal is to have financial peace, and that's a beautiful thing. So, and having gone through the stress of not having financial peace, I would never want to experience that again, and I would not want anybody to experience it if they can avoid it. So, so
your nonprofit. Because did you give a .com for? You said it earlier, didn't you?
Well, I'm setting up everything.
Okay.
And I just kind of do it on the side. But what I do 2 things. One, I do the financial counseling, but I also help small not-for-profits and small churches kind of do financial things. Okay. For instance, I'm working on a not-for-profit now where I'm going to go through an audit for them and their finances. I've not been very good at this. Like I just talked to someone today about developing my website, but you can contact me at chopeministry@gmail.com. Okay. And so, and there's also a website for Simply Grateful that you can contact me to.
Beautiful.
Simply Grateful by Regina Fowler, .org or .com, one of those, I don't know. But
we'll put the right address.
But for people to contact me, but most of my time is really helping these not-for-profits, because I will tell you, they will seek your help and ask you to help. And I don't mind. I mean, I'm retired, I could do it. And so sometimes the jobs get bigger than I hope. I think I worked for one for a whole year without pay, but but they were doing such a good work. Yes. And the work was too good not to help. So, and the one I'm doing now is only up through the end of March. So, and then someone called me today, and I suspect it's for work, but I do it based on time. And now that my husband's retired, he can help too. So
Right.
yeah, we both could do it.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, well, thank you, ladies. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you for all that
Thank
you
you
all are
so
doing. It's really a good thing, what you guys are doing, and it's so
Yeah.
needful, not just for our community, but for the community at large. And I believe in if you can get it free, get it free.
Right. I
So,
know. Before we get into our announcements and everything, if you've ever done qigong with me, or if you heard me do my affirmations, there's a piece in there that I end with exceeding abundantly. It came from this book.
Oh, come on now.
Exceeding
Oh.
abundantly.
Thank
So,
you.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
homage. Good way to say it. Yes. I love it. Yes.
That is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And this has been this week's Black History Moment.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Awesome.
Well, thank you,
Right.
ladies.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
So the first thing we have coming up is, of course, this Friday's open mic night. We'll continue celebrating Black History Month. So come on out. Last Friday, it was a packed house.
Yes.
I would suggest get here
Standing
early.
room only. It was. Yes.
Oh
it was.
yeah. Yes.
Get here early.
It was beautiful. So come out, tell some stories, tell some history, just show your talent, be who you are. It's just great. We have wonderful food,
Yes.
you know, wonderful
Great
people,
time.
great
Great vibes.
community.
Yes.
You know, it's positive, you know, of course. So and it's here at Love and Light Wellness,
1325 Hampton Avenue.
right, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So that is this Friday, this Sunday. Right.
We have the Rihanna watch party, aka Super Bowl. They say they'll be playing football in the background, I guess. But yes, so we'll be celebrating. We're gonna have food specials. Those nachos that you've been drooling over on Instagram, they're gonna be here. So come through. That starts at 4:00.
Yes.
And then until the game is over.
Right.
And then the following Saturday, the 18th of February, like she mentioned earlier, at 2:00, we're going to have our net to worth brunch and biz. So we'll be networking and helping each other, helping you in your business venture.
And if you guys, please, if you want to get on that email list, because within our email list, we're sending out important information, free information, some not so free, but we're giving some tidbit informations of grants and other programs that are out here that we've been blessed to, you know, with some good people to share with us. So really, if you want to be a part of that, look, you can contact Tiggy at Tiggy Pink Productions at her website, or you can go to mindloosewomansanctuary.com, or of course, you know, find us on this video. We're all over, y'all. So it's a lot of places and a lot of ways you can get in contact with us. And next Tuesday, Table Talk, we're having a special edition in celebration of Valentine's Day, February 14th, but Black Love Day. So yes.
No titles, just two Black women and two Black men trying to discuss the current relationships, the atmosphere, just try to see how we can come together. Like we said, kind of get some unity.
Right, and we're gonna be ready. So we'll be ready for whatever we need to discuss, and it's interesting as to how that's gonna go. So we're really excited.
You may see a different Tigra, but
I'll be watching.
We're gonna be ready for this one. I'm gonna make sure I got all my magic bag, because I don't know what's gonna happen. Just saying, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh, and the last announcement.
Oh, yes.
The 19th of February. It's Mardi Gras. So everyone, you know, the links are up to purchase your tickets, RSVP. And we also want you to dress up. So Mardi Gras attire, masquerade,
self-love, self-care.
That's
This
my
is all about appreciating.
Yes,
and having fun while we do it.
Yeah,
so.
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun February.
Yes,
I'm excited.
Yes, super exciting. So, well, we will see you at the next Tuesday Table Talk. Thank you all. Thank you so much, and thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. I loved it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Let's see. Now this is the part here. This is always the fun part. There we go. Make sure we're on.